What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about the last film in the Rec series. And I've been a big fan of the first three films in the Rec series. It's a found footage horror film series that I find them all to be really entertaining. I was highly recommended the first film multiple times, and I really enjoyed the first movie. I thought that it was really suspenseful and well written, and it just kept me on the edge of my seat. And the second and third movies both had things about them that I really enjoyed as well. And I know this movie is typically regarded as the worst in the series, but regardless of that, I was really looking forward to watching it. And the movie I'm going to be discussing with you today is Wreck for Apocalypse. Wreck for Apocalypse is directed by Jaume Balagueró. Ángela Vidal, the young television reporter who entered the building with the firemen, manages to make it out alive. But what the soldiers don't know is that she carries the seed of a strange infection. She's to be taken to a provisional quarantine facility, a high security installation where she will have to stay in isolation for several days. An old oil tanker, miles offshore and surrounded by water on all sides, has been especially equipped for the quarantine. So, as I said, I was really excited to watch this because I've really enjoyed the first three films in this series, and this is definitely the worst of all four of the films. It's not necessarily the worst movie I've ever seen by any means. I don't think it's terrible, but it's also not doing anything new or inventive enough to be all that exciting. It also strips away the found footage format, which the third movie did, in a way that was interesting and added to the story a little bit. Like, it was jarring at first, but I was okay with it. This movie, it just completely pulls away from that concept, which makes the movie feel just like a generic possession slash zombie type of movie, which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. But I think that the pacing of this, the way information is revealed, it's not all that compelling or gripping like the first three movies in the franchise. And I'll break it down as a whole when I tell you a little bit more about the plot. So at the beginning of the movie, we actually get a SWAT team going back into the apartment building, and we see Angela being discovered, and she gets put on board this ship that is quarantining people that possibly could have been infected. And they do some scans on her initially, and they don't find anything wrong. They don't think she is infected by this virus. And so, because of that, they just go about business as usual on board this ship. And we're introduced to all these different characters, one in particular who is, I believe, one of the SWAT members that rescued her out of the building. You get one of the women who was at the wedding that was quarantined from the third movie. And you get all these different characters that work on board this ship. And everything starts out seemingly normal until you find out that there are scientists on board experimenting with this monkey that has been taken over by the virus. The monkey ends up biting someone on board, which causes the virus to outbreak. And the entirety of the film is Angela and this group of survivors trying to get off this ship before they are killed and trying to stop this virus from spreading outside on land. So like I said, I did not think this movie was very good. I will say the performances are fine. I like Angela's character from the first film, and I think she does a really nice job in this movie. I feel like all the actors and actresses do the best with what they can here. The script's not all that fascinating, so it's not like it's very deep or anything, but the performances are all fine. As far as being shot more like a traditional narrative film, because this isn't found footage anymore, there's a lot of editing choices, especially when the movie gets really violent, where the camera work is incredibly jarring, to where you'll either like see something and it cuts away too quickly for it to sit with you as a viewer, whether that be a person being attacked or seeing like the transformation makeup, which I feel like in found footage, when you're cutting away quickly, it works for the medium because it's like someone running away really fast, where this just feels like you're cutting away because you didn't have the budget to showcase it. And there are some really cool practical effects moments in this movie that I think look really nice, but I'm just curious if there are moments that it was just poor shot selection or the editor didn't know when to cut, but it can be jarring at times. My biggest problem with this movie, and I hate saying this about films, especially when I'm such a huge fan of like slice of life cinema, but it's very boring, honestly. And I don't like saying that, but I didn't find it to be as suspenseful or action packed as the first three films in the franchise, because there's so much just mundane dialogue, and then these scientists talking about the creature being possessed and quarantining it We get the idea. I think what makes the first two films so great is how much is shrouded in mystery. And then the third film is really entertaining because it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's like the directors of the film kind of pulling back and having fun, where in the third movie, it plays a little bit more with comedy and there's also genuine horror in it. But in this movie, it's just like trying to be the most generic zombie possession type of movie out there, which is what makes it a slog to get through. And towards the tail end of the film, it just becomes constant like interactions where a possessed person comes up on someone and attacks them. And it's just so cyclical, and the characters are relatively uninteresting in this movie. So when they're in danger, it just doesn't really matter all that much. It just feels kind of stale at this point. And I feel like if you're going to carry on a series like this and keep it fresh and exciting, you have to try to do something different, which is why in the third movie, starting out as found footage and then kind of shifting into a traditional narrative format, I didn't have any problem with it because it was new, right? It was something that hadn't been done before. And this film just completely abandons the found footage aspect, which makes it less interesting as a whole. And like I said, it's not the worst thing in the world. There are a couple of cool moments with the practical effect, but I just don't see myself having any desire to revisit this movie in the future compared to the three films that came before it, because it doesn't really add anything exciting to the series. It doesn't really end on a note that is any different than what I saw in the first three films, or that I think makes the story any more engaging or interesting. And I watched this to finish the series, but like I said, I don't think I would ever be inclined to visit this one again. So have you seen Rec 4 Apocalypse? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was pretty bland in comparison to the first three, and I probably wouldn't watch it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.